host. What's up? Welcome to the BeerTime story. No better way to go to sleep than to watch a little BeerTime story. And what's our story today? What's our very first story? A little known classic known as The Lord of the Rings, The Fellowship of the Ring, written by J.R. Tolkien. I don't know why they have to why every fantasy writer has to initialize their names. They got J.K. Rowling's, George R.R. Martin. It must be a thing. I don't know. Anyway, let me tell you a little story about the Lord of the Rings. And it begins in a place called Middle Earth. It's like medieval times with trolls and dragons and ogres and elves and dwarves and men. Like a way cooler version of medieval history. Back in Middle Earth, there was this guy. He was like a dark lord. His name was Sauron, and he was the super edge lord. And he created some rings. And he's like, I hate everything, and I'm going to take all my hate and I'm going to pour them into these rings, and I'm going to create these rings and I'm going to give them to people like the dwarves and the elves and whatnot. But I'm going to create one ring that'll completely rule them all, and they'll all come under my rule. So he does that, and he gives rings to one ring to the human king and the elf king and the dwarf king. But he's like, my ring, as long as you got those other rings on you, my rings trump all your bullshit rings, so you just work for me. And he builds a massive army and takes over Middle Earth. But then there's a group of humans and elves and stuff that are fuck this guy. We don't want to be ruled by him, so we're gonna fight him. And so they go and fight him, and there's this guy named Isildur, and he's the son of the king of Gondor, which is the threshold of the kingdom of men. And he's I'll fight this dude with my army and my elf friends. And they do. And he eventually cuts off Sauron's ring, or his hand, and the ring falls off, and he takes it, and Sauron is destroyed. But all of his hate is still in the ring, and the guy takes the ring, and the elf guy tells the man, or the king of men, oh, you got to destroy this ring. It's evil. You got to take it to the volcano and throw it in. He's like, oh yeah, let's do that shit, because this is bad news. So they get up there, and he's about to throw it in, and then he changes his mind. He's like, no, you know what? Fuck that. I went through all this hassle. I got this ring. I feel powerful now. I'm going to keep it. And the old guy's like, no, man, you can't do that. It's bad news. He's like, nah, I don't give a fuck. I'm taking it. And so he takes it, and he's thinking he's going to unite the races of men and whatnot with it. But he just ends up getting shot up with a bunch of arrows at some point and loses the ring. And it falls into the water, and it's lost forever until some guy finds it, Smeagol, and he finds it and he kills his homeboy because he was out fishing with his homeboy and they found this ring and he's like, oh, this was a cool ass ring. He's like, no, I want that ring. He's, no, well, I found it. He's like, I'll fucking choke you to death then. And so he chokes him to death and he fucking takes the ring and then he turns into a crackhead and he lives in the caves with this ring, eating raw fish and becoming a raw fish crackhead until he eventually like drops the ring. And he's like, "Oh shit, where's my precious? Like where's my shit?" And he couldn't find it, but a little dwarf guy, but he's not a dwarf. He's called the Hobbit, but they're kind of like the same thing because they're both small, except one lives in a mountain in a cave, and the other one lives in like hovels in the ground. But this guy named Bilbo finds it. He's like, "Oh shit, I found this dope ass ring. I'm gonna keep it." So he does, and then everybody forgets about the ring, but he's got it this whole time. And then we skip forward into the future in the movie, and it's Bilbo's, the guy who found the ring. It's his 111th birthday, because the ring gives you like unnatural long life. And he had the ring the whole time, so he's like living beyond his years. And even though nobody questioned it, it's still all good. And he had it, and he had a birthday party, and uh, his old friend, a wizard named Gandalf, he comes and he brings a basket full of fireworks and shit. And everybody doesn't trust him because like the hobbits are like, oh, we don't fuck with magic or adventure. We just like to sit around and drink and garden and do mundane shit. We're not into adventure. But he comes into town, they're all pissed at him, but he comes in anyway, and Bilbo's his old friend, so he's like, oh shit, what's up, Bilbo? Happy 111th birthday. I don't know why I came around now, but fuck it, I'm here. What's up? Let's smoke some weed. And they smoke some weed out of their big long pipes. And he's like, yeah, I'm ready. Bilbo's like, yeah, I'm ready for a bigger adventure, Gandalf. And Gandalf's like, yeah, I don't blame you. And you never know but Gandalf's a wizard, and you don't know how old he is, but he looks old as shit. But he's Gandalf the Grey. He's dressed in all gray shit, and you know he gets high and he does wizard shit, and he's got explosives. So yeah, Bilbo goes to his little birthday party with all his people, and he starts rambling on about like, it's time for me to leave now. I gotta take off. And apparently this ring that he had makes you invisible. And at the end of his party, he just kind of throws on the ring and like disappears. And everybody's like, what the fuck? But then they end up just going back to partying and shit like that. So he goes back to his house and he starts packing up his shit. And Gandalf comes in and he's like, oh, that's some crazy shit you pulled with your disappearing nonsense. I bet you got some, what do you got, some kind of trinket on you that does some magic? He's like, oh, yeah, I got this ring. And Gandalf starts looking at the ring. He's like, man, this ring, I don't know about this shit, man. I heard about something about a ring. Let me check this thing out. And then, he's checking it out, and Bilbo's like, I kind of want that ring back. And like, Gandalf's like, no, this is bad news. We need to check about this shit. You need to leave this here. And Bilbo gets the flip, and he's like, motherfucker, you trying to steal my shit? And Gandalf's like, don't you fucking swell up on me, bro. Don't you ever swell up on me. You know who I am? I'm Gandalf. I'm a motherfucking wizard. Don't you ever swell up on me, And Bilbo's like, oh, my bad. And they start hugging and shit. And he's like, I didn't mean to, get on your case like that, but don't you ever swell up on me. Like I'll turn you into a toad and shit. Don't fuck with me. I'm a wizard. But I'm telling you, this ring is fucked up. And Bilbo's like, yeah, the ring probably is fucked up, but I gotta get out of here. I'm just gonna leave it to my nephew. It'll be all good. And he goes to walk out of the house, but he still got the ring. Gandalf's like, no, you got to drop that ring, bro. You can leave, but you got to drop that ring. So he drops it and he leaves. And so Bilbo's nephew, Frodo, he's another hobbit. He comes. He's about to inherit all his uncle's, house and all that type of shit. So he comes in thinking he hit a big ass lick. He's like, oh shit, I'm gonna live the rest of my life. I got my uncle's sweet ass pad, and he was like an adventurer, and fucking he wrote a book, and he's living good, and he's got all this good shit. I'm about to be all right. But he comes in the house, and Gandalf's sitting there. He's smoking some more weed. He's like, oh shit, what you doing here? It's like, oh, your uncle left you some shit. It's like, oh shit, I know. No, you got an envelope on the floor, bro. So Frodo picks up the envelope and it's got the ring in it, and he's like, "Oh shit, what's this?" He's like, "Oh, that's your uncle left it for you. Throw that shit in the fire." What? It's like throw it in the fire. So fucking Frodo throws that shit in the fire, and when it gets in the fire and it heats up, a bunch of symbols start showing up on it, and it's in some weird elfin language. And Gandalf's like, "Oh shit, I think I might know what this ring is." So, and Frodo's like, "Well, can you tell me?" He's like, "No, I don't know, but it can't stay here. This is a fucking bad ring." He's like, "What do you mean a bad ring?" Like, if people are looking for this ring. They're gonna come and fucking kill you if you don't give them this ring. He's like, "Well, shit, I don't want this." He's like, "Well, you got it. It's yours now. I don't know what to tell you." So Frodo tries to give fucking Gandalf the ring. Gandalf's like, "No, I don't want that shit, bro. Like, I don't want anything to do with that shit. If you give me that ring, I might fuck somebody up." He's like, "So what do I do with it?" He's like, "You got to get the fuck out of Dodge with that ring, bro. Like, you got to get rid of it. I got to talk to my homeboy. Like, you go meet me, like, meet me in a different town, and we'll talk about it. But I got to talk to my homeboy, figure out what's going on with this ring." So he's like, "All right." But when they're about to leave, Gandalf fucking hears somebody outside the window. He reaches out the window and he pulls out another hobbit named Samwise, and Samwise was the fucking gay ass gardener who was sneaking around in the bushes. He's like, "Oh, what are you doing here?" So I didn't know. I didn't hear nothing. I didn't hear nothing about like the end of the world or magic rings. I didn't hear none of that shit. And Gandalf wasn't having it. He's like, "Nah, motherfucker, you heard our plans. Now you with them. Now this is your burden now too. So you better handle your mans." So now Sam and Frodo, his little gay counterpart, they leave Bilbo's house and they go out and leave the Shire, and they're going to meet up with Gandalf in this little town. And on the way, they run into Merry and Pippin, and there are two other little hobbits, but they're dumb as a box of fucking rocks, and they're out there stealing shit from somebody's garden. And they're like, "Oh shit, where you guys going?" They're like, "Oh, we're heading to the fucking mountains to destroy this fucking ridiculous ring." Like, "Oh, all right, we'll go with you. It can't be that fucking crazy." But on the way, they run into these ring race, and the ring race are these like zombie ghost men that used to be men, but now they're just demented spirits who are desperate to get the ring so they can be wished back to life or something. But they're obsessed with the ring and they can feel it wherever it goes, and they just track them down and they hide out and they barely escape from them. And then they go to the town. It's the town of Bree. That's where they were supposed to meet Gandalf, and they were supposed to meet at this bar called the Prancing Pony. So they go in there, and Frodo asks the bartender, like, "Yeah, you ever heard of Gandalf? He's this white guy with a big beard and shit." He's like, "Oh yeah, I heard of him. That motherfucker ain't been here in months." So Frodo's like, "Oh well, shit, what the fuck? He said he was supposed to meet us here in a week. It's been a couple weeks, and he still ain't here. Like, what the fuck?" So they're sitting around in the bar, drinking and shit, and and Merry and Pippin are just getting wasted, and Sam is all nervous, and Frodo's all nervous, and there's this guy in the corner, all draped in the shadows, staring at him. He's like, "This motherfucker's been staring at you all night, bro." It's like, "Oh, I don't know who that fucking guy is." So anyway, fucking Pippin and Merry, they get in some mischief and spill beer, and it turns into a fucking fight, and somebody tries to grab Frodo. So he throws on his ring, and it makes him invisible, but it also makes him see like Sauron, who's dead, but he's alive now for some reason, and he's a big giant eye. I don't know why he didn't have a human body or like a physical body, but he's alive and he has all this power, but he's just an eye in a tower, and he sees it. And when he takes the ring off, somebody grabs him, and the guy who grabbed him, who's a weirdo who was sitting in the corner the whole night, just fucking eyeballing him. So he drags him up in the room, and he's like, "Oh, do you know what's after you?" What? So I know what's after you, and he undoes his hood, and it turns out it's this guy named Strider, and he's a ranger, and I guess a ranger is like a badass of medieval times who could fucking deal the sword, and I don't know. I guess maybe it's like a bounty hunter type deal back in the day or back in Middle Earth or whatever. So Sam busts in with Merry and Pippin with their bullshit little hobbit swords and like, hey man, let him go or we'll fucking stab you. It's like, man, you don't even know what you're dealing with. I know what you're dealing with. Come with me. So whatever reason they trust this fucking guy, but meanwhile, Gandalf, he went to talk to his homeboy Saruman, who was another wizard, but like a higher ranking wizard because he had white robes on instead of black robes or gray robes on. And I guess depending on your robes, you have more power. I don't know. But he meets up with him and he's like, yeah, we found this ring and you know it belongs to Sauron and all this and that, and Saruman's like, yeah, I know about that, but we can't do shit about Sauron. Like we might as well just give in to him because there's no way we can beat him. And Gandalf's like, man, what the fuck you talking about, dude? You used to be hip, you used to be with it. He's like, no, I'm not about that lifestyle no more. Like it's that Sauron. There ain't no point of even fighting him. You either with me or you're against me now. So they get into a wizard fight, and Sauron beats Gandalf's ass and throws him up into a fucking tower. And while he's up in the tower, a butterfly comes out of nowhere and lands on Gandalf, and Gandalf talks to the fucking butterfly somehow, and the butterfly sends a message to an eagle, a big eagle that comes, and he jumps off the tower and flies away on the eagle. I don't know why this happened or how this happened, but apparently this is a power that he had. I don't know why he never used it before, but he did now, and he flew away on the eagle. But when Strider and the hobbits were in Rivendell, they decided like they're not Rivendell. They were going to Rivendell. They left the little dancing prancing pony, and they were like, we got to go to Rivendell because that's where the elves are at. And the elves are like supposed to be highly intellectual beings and shit, so they might know what to do. So like, yeah, we're gonna go talk to the elves, but they stop on the way at a place called like Weathertop, and it's this totally non evil looking place where they'd totally be safe, but they totally weren't safe. And the ring race showed up there, and they cornered the hobbits, and Strider was out in the woods doing some shit, and he wasn't there, so he couldn't defend them. So they tried to fight off the ring race, and the ring race comes, and they slap all the other fucking hobbits aside, like, we want Frodo, like, fuck you little dwarf midgets. And it pushes them aside, and they go after Frodo, and they're like reaching towards him, like, yeah, give me the ring, man. And Frodo's like, no. He puts the ring on for some reason. I don't know why, but it reveals the ring race faces, and I guess they're just like rotted zombie men. And they reach for the ring, and he wouldn't give it to him. So the one wraith just like fucking stabs him with his magic sword, and he's like, dude, just give me the fucking ring. I'm gonna kill you. I'm taking this ring one way or another. He fucking stabs his ass. And that's when Strider shows up and he fights him off. But meanwhile, Frodo's just been stabbed in the fucking shoulder and he's all fucked up. And he's like, and then Strider's like, I only know one place that can fix this magic. We got to go to the elves, which is where we're going to begin with. But we got to go faster now. So they take him, and eventually they're riding through the woods, and Strider's elf girlfriend shows up. They don't explain that it's his girlfriend at first. Well, I guess they kind of do, but it's assumed that it's his girlfriend. And she shows up and takes control of, or grabs Frodo, and they're riding through the woods trying to escape the ring race. And they make it past the river, and she uses her elf magic to make horses come out of the river, and like because they crossed the river, and she made horses out of water come out of the river and block the path that they were traveling on, so the ring race couldn't get across the river. Well, anyway, she saves them, and they make it to Rivendell, and they cure him or fix him, kind of, Frodo. And he wakes up and he realizes where he's at, and his uncle's there, Bilbo, he's there, but he's old and he aged really quicker than he should have, because I guess again the ring gives you unnaturally long life, and he didn't have the ring anymore. And he's talking about like, yeah, I'd like to see that old ring again. And he turns into a crackhead real quick and tries to snatch the ring from fucking Frodo. He's like, oh shit, my bad. And but then the king of the elves comes around, and his name is Elrond, and he's like, you know, you got to destroy the ring, but I can't help you because me and my people, we're out this bitch, because men are stupid and dwarves are fucking greedy, and we're just not having a part of this shit anymore. So you guys were pretty much on your own. We're leaving. We already dealt with this ring shit once, and old boy flipped his wig and took off with the fucking ring after I told him not to. So I'm not dealing with that shit anymore. We're all taking off. So you're on your own. And everybody's like, oh, fuck, what are we going to do? So they have a little meeting, and they're like, okay, who's going to destroy the ring, or who's going to do something about the ring? And the elf's like, oh, I'll do it. And the dwarf's like, nah, fuck that, because dwarves are bigots. And they're like, nah, this dwarf ain't taking the ring. I'll destroy it with my hammer, my axe, and whatever. That doesn't work. And they're all just arguing. And then Frodo's like, well, I'll take it. And everybody's like, oh shit, this little fucking dweeb's gonna take this shit? Well, I guess. And then, everybody starts to step up, and you had the elf step up. It's like, I'll go with them. You have my sword, and you have my axe, and you have my staff, and you have my fucking whatever the fucking thing I have. So they set up the fucking the Fellowship of the Ring, and that's with Sam and Frodo and Merry and Pippin, and there's an elf, Legolas, and then there's a dwarf, Gimli, and then Gandalf's there, and then you have two humans that are Aragorn and Boromir. But Aragorn is actually Striker, because it came out that Striker's like, no, like I'm actually heir to the throne of the King of Men, and I didn't want to do this, but I got to do it. And so, yeah, now he's Aragorn now. He's not Strider. He's actually like the King of Men. And everybody knew this somehow, but nobody said anything about it. So they go out, they leave Rivendell, and they got to go across the mountains to get to where they're going. But Saruman causes an avalanche using his wizard magic, and so they can't go that route that they wanted to. So they had to go through the mines of Moria, which is like a dwarf kingdom that they built, but the dwarves are greedy as shit. And so inside Moria, they discover that all the dwarves have been killed that lived in there, and they had dug too deep as far as Gandalf said, and they awoken something. I guess they dug into orc hell because the orcs start coming out and like chasing them down, and they're surrounded by these orcs at one point, but the orcs like disperse, and then this Belrog, which is a demonic creature from the underworld that looks like a flaming devil, pops up, and they're like, Gandalf's like, oh shit, we can't fight this dude. Let's fucking get the fuck out of here. So they try to flee, and the mine's like collapsing and stuff, and Gandalf stays behind because they got to cross this bridge, and Gandalf's like, I'm gonna stay behind and stop this demon thing from crossing this bridge to chase you. And he pulls up his staff and he's like, you shall not pass, and slams it down. And this flaming devil guy is whipping his whip and doing devil things. But the bridge collapses and the devil guy falls. And Gandalf might think it's all good until, the whip comes up from the depths and snatches him by the legs and kind of pulls him down. And he doesn't have the strength to pull himself up again. So he just looks at the rest of the party and is like, fly, you fools. Some say it says fly, you fools. Others say it says run, you fools. But if it does say fly, you fools, I'm assuming that he's talking about the eagles. But he never told them about the eagles or how to use moss and butterflies to summon them in the first place. So I don't know how that would have helped them in any form or fashion. I don't even know why he just didn't call the eagles in the first place to just fly them to Mount Doom, where they had to toss the ring to destroy it. They could have just done that in the first place and avoided all of this. But that never happened. So he kind of just falls into this pit and disappears. So the rest of them leave the halls, and they're all heartbroken and shit because Gandalf is dead, and they're all crying and holding on to each other and shit. And, Aragorn's like, fuck this shit, we gotta go. We don't have time to mourn the loss of this guy who sent us out on this perilous adventure in the first place without giving us any information about what's going on. So really kind of fuck him, but it is what it is now. So they go on, and they come into a forest where there's the Sylvan Elves, and it's led by this chick named Gadriel, and she's the Lady of the Woods, and she's like a woods witch. And she's like, I know where you guys are going, because I'm a witch. I need to talk to Frodo. So she meets with Frodo, and she has him look into this water goblet where he sees a vision of what's going to happen in the future if he doesn't destroy the ring. And he sees his friends being whipped and villages on fire and hobbits on spits and shit like that, and orcs just destroying shit. And he's like, what the fuck? It's like, yeah, this. She's like, yeah, this is what's gonna happen if you fail. So he's like, oh fuck, man, I ain't meant for this shit. He's like, well, she's like, well, it doesn't matter if you meant for it or not. It is what it is. You got the ring now. It's on you. If you can't do it, nobody can. So now he's all fucking got the weight of the world on his shoulders and shit. But she's like, it's all good. I'll give you, here's a little parting gift. And she gives her, he gives her the light of a loon or some shit. And it's this vial of water that'll light all dark places when all other lights went out. So basically she gives him a flashlight in a bottle. And he takes that and he's like, all right, well, we got to split. And so they split. But while they're splitting, back on the other side, Saruman's dispatching what they call the Urukai, which are super orcs that they dig out of the mud somehow. And they're super huge. And I don't know what makes them really any different than any other orc, except they're bigger and more, I wouldn't even say more violent, just more confusing because they dig them out of the mud, out of these pods, and I don't know how many of them there are, but they're all big. But there's one like super big one that's got like a handprint of Saruman on his forehead, and he's like, "Yes, I work for Saruman, and I came out the dirt, and I'm gonna go kill some hobbits and some people." Except I'm not gonna kill the hobbits. I gotta take the hobbits alive, but I'm gonna kill everybody else because that was his mission. So they were like, "Yeah." Saruman's like, "Yeah, go find that party of misfit toys and kill them, except for the small toys. Take them because one of them might have a ring that I need to give to my master for some reason." Anyway, they take off and they land. They go down the river. They take a river boat, some river boats, and they float down the river and they land somewhere. And then after they docked, Frodo kind of like wandered off, and Boromir, who's one of the people in the party, who was like the other human aside from Aragorn, he's like following him. And Boromir like meets up with him. He's like, "Hey man, you should give me the ring because I could use it to unite the kingdom of men." And Frodo's like, "No, I don't think I can do that shit." And Boromir just loses his shit. He's like, "I want the fucking ring. Give it to me. I'm taking that shit." Like, "Oh, you don't know what the fuck you're talking about." So he tries to take the ring, and he doesn't because Frodo puts on the ring and goes invisible and kicks him in the nuts and shit. And then he kind of snaps to it and he starts crying. He's like, "Oh shit, I didn't mean to. Don't tell anybody. I tried to fucking kill you and take the ring or whatever." But in the meantime, while he's Frodo's got the ring on, he can see the Eye of Sauron, and Sauron can see him, and the orcs track him down. And as he takes the ring off, and when he takes the ring off, Aragorn is there, Aragorn is there, and he's like, he tried to give Aragorn the ring, but Aragorn's like, "No, I don't. I'm here for you, bro. I don't even want that ring, man." So he plays the peace card and he passes the test. Like, yeah, he wasn't tempted by the ring. But then he's like, Aragorn's like, "Bro, get the fuck out of here." And here comes a fucking army of orcs. And so Aragorn starts fighting the orcs while Frodo takes off. And, he does a decent job. And then Boromir fights too, but he gets fucking tagged up by a bunch of arrows. And the Uruk-hai take Pippin and Merry, and Aragorn wins, but Boromir, who's all fucked up, and Aragorn runs into Boromir, who's lying on the ground, tagged up with arrows, and Boromir's like, "Oh yeah, man, I gotta confess, I tried to steal the ring from Frodo, but don't tell anybody. But you're cool, man. You're like the king, and I'm with you whenever. But it's kind of a empty statement because I'm dying and I got 8 arrows in me, so it really doesn't matter if I'm with you or not because I'm literally gonna die." But it's all good, and they give him like an honorable send off, and they put his sword on his chest and whatnot, even though the guy was like a fucking scumbag and was obviously gonna betray him at some point in the future, and actually betrayed them uh, a couple times in the past. But it's all good now because it was, I guess, the ring that was corrupting him, not the fact that he was just a complete fucking scumbag who was out from the beginning to gain his own fucking power. But yeah, Boromir swears allegiance to Aragorn, and he's the rightful king. And then Boromir dies, and that's the end of that. And back at the river, Frodo is like sitting there, like, "I shouldn't have came with any of these motherfuckers. Like, they're all fucking me up." So he gets in a boat. He's like, "I'm just gonna do this shit on my own," even though there's no way he could have. But he's like, "Fucking, I'm gonna do it anyway." But here comes fucking Sam. He's like, "No, I promised that I wouldn't leave you." And Frodo's floating off in the boat, and Sam jumps in the water. And I guess hobbits can't swim for some reason, and so like Sam's just fucking drowning. And I guess Frodo's like, "Well, I can't just watch him drown to death." So he comes back and he pulls him on board. And once Sam is safe, Sam's like, I promised I'd never leave you." And they have a gay hobbit moment, and they hug and caress each other in the fucking sunset. And then once they get to the other side, Sam and Frodo, they climb a mountain and they spot Mordor, where they have to go destroy the ring in the distance, and that sets up the beginning of Two Towers, which is the next movie. But that's basically the first Lord of the Ring in a nutshell. I liked it. It's one of my favorite movies. A lot of it doesn't make sense. It probably made more sense in the book, but nobody's going to read the book. So just take my word for it. This is what happened in the story. There's elves and there's dwarves and there's ogres and there's orcs and there's orcs that get dug out of the mud, and they're cool. And you have some pretty epic fight scenes kind of, and you have people flying away on eagles, and it's just I don't know what else you want from a story. What else do you want? But that's Lord of the Ring. uh I'm glad you paid attention to it. I'm gonna drink another beer, and that's gonna be the end of my night. Thank you for listening to Beer Stories, and subscribe and like and share, and be a good human being and help me make money somehow. Uh, and that's about it. Anyway, uh, bye, Dios.